Today's sermon is called, What's Love Got to Do with It? What's love got to do? Me too. It's often hard to figure out what to call a sermon, like the title of it, because I have to turn it in so early. Sometimes, you got to turn it in so it can be printed in the bulletin, so that it can be put in the slides. And I sometimes I have no idea what I should call this sermon that I'm supposed to be preaching this week. So I had some students in my office this week as I was emailing, and I said, I need a sermon title for the sermon I'm supposed to preach on Sunday, so what should it be? One student looked at me and said, I think the title should be, That's What Makes Subaru a Subaru. I said, I like it, but I don't think I can work with that. I said, it has to do something with love, because Jesus is talking about loving your enemies and loving those who hate you, caring, it has to be something about that. And so then we started talking about music and songs that had the word love in it. And then eventually one student said, what's love got to do with it? And I said, that's good. I can work with that. What does love have to do with it? I have no idea. Maybe that's what I can figure out this week. But I have really no idea if that actually goes with the sermon or not. I have no idea if it's going to work out. Sometimes when you turn that in, you have no idea, and you have to figure out how it's going to play out. Sometimes I have no idea what I'm doing when I'm picking the title. Over the past few weeks, I've been asking that question or saying that to myself a lot. I have no idea what I'm doing. I have no idea what I'm doing in my life. I have no idea what I'm doing in my career. I have no idea what I'm doing tomorrow. No idea what I'm doing. Over the past year, I've been saying that a lot. What am I going to do when I grow up? Yeah. The most interesting thing about it is that when I've asked this to people of different places and ages, and they all say the same thing. I don't know what I'm doing with my life. I work at the college, and I get to be with students and sit with them and talk about their discernment, what they're going to do, what major they're going to take, what minors, what classes they should have. I get to talk with them about whether they want to be an educator or a minister, whether they want to go to grad school or work. And it's an amazing process and honor to be a part of that. Honor to be able to hear and listen, to ask questions, to just be on the journey with them, figuring life out. And here I have been over the past year doing the same thing for myself. And so I've been asking that same question, what am I supposed to be doing with my life? I have no idea what I'm doing. What do I want to do when I grow up? And when I've asked that and told that to other people, they have often said the same thing, whether they were a student or whether they were retired. It seems like everybody's asking that question, what am I going to do with my life? I think COVID has made that question more salient than ever. Being in the midst of COVID has people reevaluating their relationship with work, with church, with people, with their jobs. I know a friend of mine who quit his job this week and has no other prospect. Just was done. Done. The professor of management at Texas A&M has called this the Great Resignation. The Great Resignation. People are leaving their jobs, going to other new jobs, going to new places. And some people are just leaving their jobs. Like they're just over it. Reevaluating their relationship with the work they're doing. Some people have said in order to get over the mess that we're in, the kind of funk that we're in because of COVID, the only way to do it is just to quit and start something else. Let's just give up, do something new. New job, new career, new life. New life. I get it. Back in January, beginning of our semester at Greensboro College, I was ready to quit everything. I was ready to give it all up. I was tired of the church. I was tired of ministry. I was tired of it all. And I thought when I was standing in line in Starbucks, I was like, I can make coffee. I could be a barista. Or maybe I could be a cashier at Target for a bit. I could do that. I look good in red. Maybe I could just open up a bake shop. Do I bake cakes? No. But it would be something different. I mean, I love being a minister and I love the church, but I am also frustrated by it, hurt by it. And I think because I'm so close to it, I know its imperfection and flaws so close up that it's easier to be angry and bitter by it all. I really just wanted to quit. Because change in the church is so slow, it's just disappointment after another disappointment. I can really understand the Great Resignation. I get it. So at the end of January, I went on a spiritual formation retreat that I had scheduled back in August. What a great time and timing. Barbara Brown Taylor is the speaker that week. She is one of my favorite preachers and authors and teachers, and I was going because she was going to be there. 7 days to hear Barbara Brown Taylor every day. I was going to be there. But what I found out that week was that I really enjoyed her talk, but I also learned so much from the other talks, and I also gained something I did not expect. That during the week, there were moments of silence in the retreat where we had to reflect upon what was said. I mean, hours of silence. And we had to go and reflect and ponder, and sometimes I'd go for a walk, sometimes I'd go take a nap. And I had no idea how burnt out I was. Because I thought I could just make it. Because I thought that I was doing fine. Because I'm doing so much less than I was doing before. But COVID has changed everything. Ron Bell, who was another speaker there, he said that COVID is a trauma in and of itself. And when COVID is over, we will still be dealing with the trauma of COVID. And it will last our entire lifetime. He said that oftentimes when we focus on that trauma that we are so close to, that sometimes we cannot separate ourselves from it. That this mess that's in the world that we think is all out there, sometimes just all of a sudden becomes part of us. It is ours as well. He says sometimes we're so close to it, it becomes part of us. He says like standing at a house. When you're standing at the front door of the house, you're standing right at the door, like the door is right in front of you. All you can see is the door. And you can't see the bigger picture. He says, so sometimes when we have to deal with the trauma, we have to step back to see the bigger picture. We have to give ourselves some space, some room, some space to see. Because when you step back from the door, you can see that there's a house. You can see that there's a yard. You can see the trees. You can see the sky. You can see the clouds. You can see the world. Ron says that in order to move towards new life, we have to distance ourselves, take a step back, and what he says, become unenmeshed by the trauma. Become unenmeshed by it. To give ourselves space to see the bigger picture, to not take upon ourselves the stress, disappointment, pain, sorrow, anger, grief that is all around us, that is all in the world. Don't let it become enmeshed in your soul. So I've been talking about becoming unenmeshed ever since. My friends are tired of me talking about it. I talk about it to my friends, to my students. I talk about it everywhere. And here I am talking about it in the sermon. Become unenmeshed by the trauma of the world. But then I was reading scripture this week, trying to figure out what I was going to say. What is the title going to be? What am I going to talk about? And then I read over and over again what Jesus was saying in his Sermon on the Plain, where he's talking about hate and anger and bitterness and violence. And I think maybe Jesus is telling us to become unenmeshed by it. to become unenmeshed by these things, so that when anger and hate and fear shows up in the world, they do not become ours. When someone comes to hate you, oftentimes we want to hate them right back, right? When someone comes at you to slap you, you're going to slap them right back. Right? When someone comes up to you to require something from you in return, you're going to ask for more, demand more. If somebody takes something from you, you're going to take it back, but you're also going to ask for more because you deserve it. You've been offended. And in all that way, and in all those ways, all we get is more hate and more anger and a lot more bruised cheeks. Hatred might feel good in the moment, but as Howard Thurman says, it will eventually destroy you. Our desires for hate and anger and revenge will destroy us all. So Jesus tells his disciples to respond differently. He says, do good to those who hate you. He says, bless those who curse you. Pray for those who abuse you. Love your enemies. Turn the other cheek. Give to those who take from you. Do not judge others. Forgive those who hurt you. Be merciful as God is merciful to you. So when those around you want to make you angry or fearful, you don't respond in the same anger or fear or hate. You do not have to become enmeshed in their hate and anger and violence. You do not have to respond hate and vengeance. They do not have to become yours. So if you give yourself a little space, if you step back from the hate and anger and violence and vengeance that wants to rise up in you, then you become unenmeshed by it. And you can respond in a way that takes power away from the things that want to destroy us. You can respond to the hate and anger and evil of this world without it becoming yours, without becoming those things yourself. This isn't about letting people walk all over you. This isn't about turning the other cheek and just like letting people walk all over you. Instead, I think it's the exact opposite of that, because it's about taking control of how you respond to the people around you and how you respond to the world that is around you. If someone makes you hate in return, then they're controlling you. If someone's anger makes you respond in anger in return, then they're controlling you. If someone's actions make you respond in a way that leads to hate and violence, then they're controlling you. But if you respond with love, if you respond with grace, if you respond with goodness, with a blessing, with a prayer, then you're responding out of your own agency. And you're no longer becoming enmeshed by their behavior. And you can make decisions that's best for you. This is the advice Jesus gives about loving enemies, about blessing those who curse you. But it's not just a list of doing good things. It's about how to become unenmeshed by the evil of the world. And it also tells us a little bit about who God is too. Because this is what God does for us. Sometimes we often think of God as Santa Claus looking down at us, checking the list, checking it twice, see who's naughty and nice, right? And ready to punish those who are bad. This is what we often think of who God is. But that's not the God of Jesus. Instead, Jesus offers us a different version of God, a God who does not offer violence and hatred and anger, a God instead who is merciful, who is kind to the ungrateful. Be merciful, Jesus says, as God is merciful. And Jesus showed us what God looks like in this mercy. Because Jesus did not offer and retaliate hate for hate. Instead, he showed love. When Jesus was being mocked and ridiculed and killed, he could have destroyed us all. But instead, he decided to respond to that violence and hate with love, with forgiveness, with mercy that overcame it all. And in that love and forgiveness and mercy, he showed us a way to new life. New life that leads to redemption, new life that leads to freedom, new life that leads to peace. I came home from that spiritual retreat and formation retreat with a renewed spirit. Before I was ready to quit. Now I'm halfway ready. But what I realized when I came from that place was that I needed to quit my addiction to the hate and anger and bitterness around me. What I needed to quit was my enmeshment with those things that swirl in my life daily. I needed to become unenmeshed. And in so doing, I found new life. Life that Jesus has always been calling us towards. Life that leads to freedom and peace. A life that is grounded in God's mercy and love. I know the world's still a mess. I know COVID will be with us forever. I know the church will never get it right. Never. I know I'll be disappointed over and over again. But now I can take a step back. Give it a little more space. And instead of responding with anger and bitterness and vengeance that will eat me up, I can respond with compassion for myself and for others. I can respond with a blessing, with a prayer, with mercy. I still have no idea what I'm going to do when I grow up. I still have no idea. But I do know that I can seek to live a life grounded in that mercy and grace that God offers us all. So that I can face whatever hate and evil and anger comes in this world without it letting have control over me, without becoming those things. I can respond in the way that Jesus is calling us all to respond, with a prayer, with a blessing, with mercy. I can respond for the good of myself. I can respond for the good of others. I can respond for the good of the world. And I think that response and the way I respond has everything to do with love.